so lovely to have her here as this part of the summit and its journey going forward with Conscious Living Global. So Stephanie, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do and why you do it, what draws you to do it, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, so some people might know me as Stephie Love. I didn't realise for quite some time people actually thought that was my name, Stephie Love, but actually it's not. I was called Stephie Love many, many years ago by an ex-boyfriend's uncle, and they'd bought my ex's little girl a cheap imitation Barbie doll that was called a Stephie Love doll, and it stuck. Although that's about where the resemblance in the Barbie doll stops. So you'd probably find me under Stephie Love more than you would anything else. I'm a therapist, really, I guess. I like to think of myself more as an orchestrator of change and possibility. My tagline is creating endless possibilities together. Because what I've found is quite often when a client rocks up, their intention is A, B, and C. And when we start clearing some of the trauma and the blocks that are there, A, B, and C becomes D, E, and F. So there's always thousands of possibilities. That's, you know, and for me, I think possibilities equal solutions. So I started my journey many, many years ago. Let me have a think. Over 20 years ago now, I began with Reiki, and I've never ever done an overt Reiki session, but I've always found that working with Reiki energy just enhances, this is my opinion, enhances all the other things that we do or that people would possibly be doing. That Reiki energy just seems to amplify and assist. My first real love in the world of therapy, and still is. I mean, I just love things that hold your attention for this amount of years. So I started off becoming an NLP practitioner, and then I went and did the Master Prac. And I love NLP as much today as I did back then. Very cognitive, very behavioural. Really interesting watching people realise, probably for the first time, that they've had these behaviours since they were little. And unlike clothing and shoes, they still insist on wearing the same thing as they did when they were 5, now that they're 55. I think one of the best things in the world for me is when you see that change happen, when you actually see that occur physically in a person, because quite often the body will respond, well, more often than not, the body will respond equally as well as the mind. And when you actually, and you see the light bulbs going on, and finally something makes sense to them. And now it makes sense to them and they have some understanding. Now they've got something to work with. So for me, that's the thrill of this game. And then went on, and this is my greatest love. I have to admit, I'm so sorry, NLP and Richard Bandler and all of you guys. I love you dearly. But then I came across SideK, and I trained in that. And I don't think I've ever really looked back. If you're unaware of what SideK is, it's a bit of a mashup of psychology, NLP, and muscle testing. So precise, spooky, so spooky. I've recently had a few clients actually pick up on it. So I work with these books, belief statements, and each of these books, I've got 2 of them, and each of them there's, I think, 4,400 belief statements. And I always like to start my sessions with a person having a chat. It's either a new person or we've worked together previously. So I like to have a chat, find out what's happened, what's been happening, where are they now, how they're feeling, what's bothering them right now. And every single time, whatever it is we talk about at the beginning will come out in one of those belief statements. So there's about 4,400, like I say. So there's all of these pages, and our muscle test. So we just drill it down. Okay, so the very best statement is on content page 1, content page 2, and so on. And then you go through the numbers, and then it will tell you which one it is. And then on each one, there's 40 statements it could possibly be. And the precision of it blows me away still after all these years. And now my clients are getting to be blown away too, because, you know, when you've worked with them long enough, the first couple of sessions, you know, they're just like, wow, that was cool. That was spot on. And then when you've done a few sessions with them and every time it is spot on. For me, the beauty of that is they're finally building a relationship with the unconscious, with all of those parts that are running, that are beautiful, that are running in the background, keeping you safe, keeping you protected, even if that behaviour to the outside world and even to yourself is a bit counterproductive maybe to what you want to get. It is still, that behaviour still believes that it is doing right by you. And it's the start of the relationship with the whole person. When I believe they start making massive progress then. When they realise there's this whole part that's in the background that's doing a lot more than they think is happening. So yeah, SideK, and then I've done some emotion code, and then I did another training, a retraining with a fantastic fella who some of you guys on here I'm guessing would know. So I'm now doing ACE training. ACE is advanced clearing techniques. So energetic, sorry, I was wondering where I was going with the techniques. That's emotional freedom technique. So yeah, advanced clearing. So that's much more, so that started working into the body, which brings me into why do I do what I do. So I love me NLP, love playing around with people's heads, like undoing them and putting them back together. It's good fun. SideK again is all about your beliefs, really. So what's going on in here. But what I noticed over a few years was, as much as we were getting results, and then oftentimes profound results, I always felt like there was something else, like there was something missing, and that these results could be better. And the more I gave it thought, the more I played around with this idea, the more I realised it doesn't matter what you clear in the head, the body is a whole unit. So it's a bit like when you go to the gym. You go to the gym, you do a few weeks, you do really, really well, and then if you're anything like me, you go, ugh, and that's that with the gym. And then you maybe give it a few months, you don't go, and then you go back, and it seems like your body goes, oh hello, we've done this before. So if people understood that going to the gym has muscle memory, everything you've ever done in your life has muscle memory. So you can take beliefs out of the mind, you can change beliefs. That's not even that hard to do. But if there has been trauma of any kind or a shock of any kind, and that's sitting in the body, which is what disease is, that still resonates. So that resonance will still be drawing other things of like to it. So to my mind, to get a really profound clearing in a person, you have to work, this is again my opinion, not only with the head but with the body too. And that's when I think things really started taking off for me, because it is massively profound, because attached to these traumas are beliefs. Traumas attached to beliefs, and beliefs are attached to traumas. They're intricately linked. So by only removing one, it's a bit like, I hate to say you had a cancer, they removed some of it, but they didn't get all of it out, you've still got cancer. So I look at it in the same way. Like, we can get the beliefs, we can work with those, and then we work with the body issues. And that, I think, is, for me, what is really holistic. And of course, it's so bespoke with the muscle testing. I really dislike people that refer to themselves as healers. I hate it, because we're not the healer. The person, whoever you're working with, is their own healer. That's who does the healing. I'm just a tour guide. I'm the person who's gone there before. I know the route. And if you're willing to come, I'll take you down that journey. But they do the healing. Every time I hear somebody say, oh, I'm a healer, there's this something inside that just thinks, oh, and you're in for a fall. and it'll happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, in a nutshell, what you do is you basically go to the source of an issue. You remove it, the memory of it, from the body, so they can get a pure connection with their God self.
Yeah, massively.
Source self, and integrate that and follow their purpose going forward.
Massively.
Which is absolutely wonderful, and absolutely key. And another point you actually made, which I think is a crucial point, is how trauma is caught in the body and affects how you proceed going forward. And it actually hinders you because your memory says, body's memory says, no, I can't do that because I'll get stung if I do. I can't show up because I'll get stung if I do. And you need to work on everything.
Yeah, anything that's
you can't just work. I mean, yes, if you're connected with that beauty of the source of God and you're there and that serves you so well, but without that true care of the body, sometimes you can still be hindered by cellular memory of severe trauma.
Can I just jump in there? Because I think I've just written a piece about this as well, because I think people are a little bit confused with trauma, because I would say the majority of people associate trauma negative, put it together. And one thing I think, if people understood a little bit more, trauma wouldn't be such a big baddie.
That's very true, can I just say, because it's in that darkness of the trauma that you reconnect or connect initially, even with that purest love of self and the source.
Yeah, it'll bring you forward.
Yeah.
But people, like, how many clients have you had when you've kind of asked, you've asked your basic questions about, have you had trauma in the past? And they'll think, and they'll say, well, I've never had anything negative happen. And I'll say, it doesn't have to be a negative. So here's an example. I saw this from real life falling out in front of my eyes, playing out right in front of me. And it was me that had created it. So, hands up. So my daughter had, she was a single young mum, gone to university, gone to college, then went to university, got a teaching degree, worked really hard. And at the end of that, I wanted to acknowledge that. So we organised a surprise party for her. All her friends and family wanted to acknowledge her hard work and congratulate her. And I was super excited, and we kind of coerced her into this pub where all the family and friends were, and I saw it happen in front of me. The absolute horror. You saw her physically flinch, tense, and then desperately try to relax as she's trying to register that everybody in this pub she knows what's going on. How come they're all here? Because everyone's surprised. And she was mortified, absolutely hated it. Centre of attention, didn't like it, the shock of it. And I watched it happen in front of me. And that was a massive lesson for me to go, see. Because the intent of it wasn't negative. You know, we'd organised this party because everybody loved her. And everybody wanted to say, well done, you. And yet the actual event that came from love created this absolute horror that this was happening right now. And even though, you know, a conscious mind is saying, well, you know, my mum's done this because she loves me, this part in the background's going, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, and went into overwhelm. So I learned a valuable lesson of my own right then, but also going forward for clients, is that when they're looking around for something bad that's happened in their life and coming up with nothing, then I can dig deeper and say, okay, so has there ever been a time where you've been taken really by surprise? And it may have been something really lovely. However, the way you dealt with it at that time was too much for you. Because, you know, sometimes people think that if they haven't got any trauma, there isn't anything up with them, which would be great. But if there wasn't anything up with them, why are you in my office? You see? So I just wanted to add that little bit, that trauma isn't necessarily always a negative. It can happen through something positive too.
Absolutely, because it's in a way, it's like what I spoke about with Heather. There is no hate in pure love, but that's also true of the self. Because, you know, if you have any aspect of you that you dislike, that is shown up in that too, because you need to love everything, including all that you are, as well.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
and that's an important thing that people tend to miss out the self. They can love everybody around them, but they forget to love who they are.
Yeah, massively.
And that too is a key. It is crucial.
But do you think and feel that, like, what we are kind of suffering from, for the simplest way of putting that, is that there's such a fine line in understanding between conceit and self-love. The amount of people that believe loving yourself is selfish, well, of course it is. It's self-ish. But until you do it, what use actually are you to anybody else? I think to be able to love yourself, warts and all, makes you a bigger advocate, whether you're actually overtly working with anybody, like in a therapeutic setting, or not. If you're just, you know, your life is to do whatever it is, but everybody you encounter recognises that you love you, then you're still an advocate for positive change, aren't you? Although, let's face it, ladies, not always easy to love a very big bottoms, is it? I saw a picture of me the other day. My daughter got me and Ruby, her daughter, on her phone, you know, a screensaver on her phone. She said, "Oh, look, I love this picture of you two, Mum." And admittedly, it is a lovely picture. But the first thing I said, I look like a superhero with a rubber neck. Immediately, you look at something and immediately you fault find, even when you know this isn't how you treat yourself. Critical eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And going into another aspect, I've known you for some years now, actually, about 3 years even.
Yeah.
And you go into the, you've touched on it, but I just want to go more deeply into what you know on metaphysics and that aspect of things, because you're growing in that way, in what you know, in that aspect as well, in that realm.
Well, meta just means beyond, doesn't it, really? It just, the word itself means beyond.
Mm.
And I've always been like that since I was a little girl. I like to dig about in the things that aren't seen necessarily, the things that are like very left field. I'm kind of left of left field, so I'm kind of out there somewhere. And I think where life is taking us, where we are in the evolutionary scale right now, is we are meta most things, in both a positive sense, but also I believe I think most people are meta governments. We are meta beyond politics now. We're beyond these governments, which I think is a good thing, because I think what we're actually watching is the fall of that system is collapsing. I think Donald Trump, thank you so much for playing the trickster. You know, he's took that role fully on board. But all I see, sitting back from it over in my hammock in left of left field, is he got a good role, didn't he? He's playing a good part here. I think we're watching it collapse, and I think health-wise, we've gone beyond. You know, energy work now is much more normal. For me, metaphysics, magic is normal. It isn't. That's the thing I like about magic, because magic is magical, but it isn't actually magic. It's just normal. And the more people realise that this is normal, and this was one of the big things that I wanted to talk to you about today, was that what do I wish more people knew? I wish more people realised that they're sovereign beings and they have a huge amount of power, and that there is zero need to be a victim. And that is my biggest dislike in this world right now, currently, living this life right now, this no blame, no fee. Oh, look, I tripped over in the street. Oh, I better sue somebody. Well, how about I've just tripped over in the street. Why did I need a bit of a jolt to wake me up? You know, you tripped. It's your life. This madness with, oh, I just hurt myself, I must blame somebody. Oh, I must get some money for that. I think it's crackers. And we're bringing our children up now. Our children are learning to take no responsibility for anything. Because there's always someone out there that not only can you blame somebody else, you can employ someone to blame them. And if they don't win that argument, but there's no money changes hands then. But if somebody gets the blame, all this money happened. I think it's nuts. But what it actually does, what I think it's doing on this very subliminal level, is just draining them. It's like sucking the power out of people, because they believe this nonsense. They believe this nonsense, and it is nonsense. How does it help somebody ever to ignore? So one of the sayings we have in NLP is, see the problem, have the problem. Now, it took me a long time to actually, it was like when I was a kid. I was 18 before I understood a double negative, that if I didn't have nothing, I must have something. My mum used to say that to me all the time. She said, what you got? And I'd say, nothing. She said, well, you must have something then. And I'd be like, what are you on about? And it's that. See the problem, have the problem. People think, because they're trained as victims, that the minute you say, well, you see that problem, you have that problem, they go, and start getting on, defensive. The thing they miss in that defensiveness is, well, that's a great thing then, isn't it? If this problem is your problem, guess who gets to do something about it? Because the whole time you think this problem, it belongs to someone else, you've got no hope of getting anywhere, because you're now waiting on those people doing something about that. And they're not going to. So actually, it's like this double whammy. They've attempted to take your power, you've willingly gave them it, and then stated, I have no power because they've got it all. So if there was one thing I could I wished more people understood was that by taking responsibility for yourself, which ties into the self-love, I guess, taking responsibility for yourself, even all the things that you wish you hadn't done, you wish you hadn't said, wish hadn't happened, unfortunately they all did. You can't go back and change those things and make it different, but from now you can lessen the effects, you can learn from it, and you can decide to do things differently moving forward. That's power. That's your sovereign right as a human being. And where this plays in for me much more deeply than that is in health, where we have been taught, I mean, the amount of people, if your doctor said it, then of course it's gospel. But what is a doctor other than a human being? And human beings, as we well know, babe, are fallible, completely. Yeah. Statistically, if you look at the cause of death of human beings, doctors, wrong diagnosis, wrong prescribing. You know, there's been people in there and had the wrong arms chopped off or the wrong leg chopped off by a surgeon because he's fallible. So there is nothing more powerful than your innate, intuitive knowing.
It's true.
There's nothing more powerful than that. And you will always have an innate, intuitive knowing, but you drown it out by giving all of the power and the authority of your life over to a doctor or over to this person or over to a solicitor, a lawyer, all of these people. So if there was one thing I wish more people understood was life begins with you, it continues through you, and it will end with you. Take the reins, get hold of your own life and steer yourself even through the storms. You have the ability to steer yourself not only through them, but out the other side as well. And I truly believe that. I believe it's all down to, it's this, you have two people diagnosed with cancer on the same day. One believes that they can do something about this. One believes that that's it, they are doomed. And whether they're right or wrong, they're going to get what they believe. So me, I'd like to be on a one-woman mission to instill in people, you are powerful.
Absolutely. And just at this moment, I just want to go, mwah, because you're busting the old paradigm walls right out of the
left field
in this conversation.
Yeah.
Everything is just being blown out, and I love it.
I'm glad, because so do I.
And yeah, just thank you for being you and for being so honest, you know. And what another thing that I love about you, Stephie, is that you have no agenda. You're just about helping other people. And that is core to your authenticity. And you're authentic about everything. You just say it as it is. And I love you for being such a powerful voice in that.
Thank you.
It's wonderful. So I would
got me into a lot of trouble over the years, I love, you know, because not everybody likes straight talking folk.
No, it's truth and honesty probably gets the most knocks because people are afraid to acknowledge it. But to still have that power, to stand in your power and say it regardless, is incredibly powerful. It's what we're here to do. It's, you know, you can't change the old paradigm to the new without full honesty of what is. You're just do it so beautifully because you just you're like a bulldoze that just goes knock everything out of the ballpark.
My thing from being young is no one's the boss of me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That was nobody's the boss of me. I'm my boss.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's a fabulous way to think as well, because in that way you can't go wrong in the way that you move in your life. I just have another question. If you were capable of creating a miracle, what would it be?
Okay, so to start on that one, I believe I am capable of creating a miracle. I'm quite determined to do it.
Yeah,
Right, so
fabulous.
if I could create a miracle, I would get into schools. Makes me sound a bit sinister, doesn't I? Sneaking about in schools. No. I'd get into schools right from the early doors, early doors schooling. I would probably go with the Hawaiian way, the Huna way. I would like that implemented in every school. So we don't teach children anything to start with. We teach them how to learn. So we teach them to what state to be in order to learn easily. And I would teach them what we've just been talking about, that you and you and you and you and you and you are so powerful. You can have, be and do anything you want. And then teach them about responsibility, be teaching them about self-love, be teaching them about how to create miracles every day for themselves, just through how they view themselves, how they view the world, how they interact with themselves and the world, and by understanding, by just tapping in to that internal power. That would be my miracle. One of the things that I find completely despicable is, especially in England, I'm not sure what it's like where Heather is, but in England, we have one of the highest rates of teenage suicide out there. And I believe it's trauma, nothing more. But when these children, I mean, it's getting younger and younger. I mean, it's become, I think I might get shot down for this one, but having worked with young people for many, many years, I've watched this kind of almost, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, when something's popular right now, this sort of like popular fad of hurting yourself. And like you said, I'm quite open and I'm out there. I started hurting myself at 13. The last time I did it, I was probably 37. Not on a regular basis, but it happened over the years. So I totally understand on a real level where their heads are at, what's happening, that their internal world is so much. And I do believe it's kind of a genetic memory of bloodletting and releasing the demons kind of thing. I think everybody you speak to that hurts themselves gets that moment of relief before the disgust and the shame of what they've just done kicks in. It is an emotional release. And the more I've worked and researched over the years with this is I believe these kids are acting out. They're acting out as I was. It's a response to trauma, and the behaviour is like a symptom. So if I had my way, they'd never get to that. They'd never ever need to get to there, because we would be taking care of those things in schools. We'd be teaching them differently. We'd be teaching them that they are powerful beings. It doesn't matter that you're 5. I mean, a 5-year-old can control a room. We all know that. They're powerful little beings. Show them their capabilities. In schools, have people like us that are releasing traumas all the time, dealing with them in a different way. So if I could create a miracle, I would wave this wand, and education would be completely altered. Completely. Because whether we like it or not, teachers, teachers are now social workers, surrogate parents, friends. They're having to be everything. I watched my daughter, she's exhausted with this, exhausted. And she's working with classes that so she's year 3, so they're like 8 or so. and they're coming up and they haven't even got the basic learnings in education. You know, some of them can't even string sentences together, and they have fell through that loop. And all that happens, it stands them outside of the rest of the group, and you can sit back of a classroom and watch the dynamics all happening. And I think it's time. And interestingly for us, Shona, I don't know whether you noticed on the news recently, they've just appointed a suicide prevention minister.
Yep.
I mean, what is that about?
Exactly. Yeah.
What is that
exactly.
about?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, on the one hand, thank God it's being addressed, but what country needs a suicide prevention minister for their teenagers? I mean, it's not just for children; it's for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my thing. That to get in there and to bring that down. I would love it if when they did all their statistics, we were getting higher and higher and higher on happiness and well-being in our youth. I mean, I'd like that for everybody, but I'm a little bit corny in the sense that I think they really are our future, aren't they? If we treat them badly now, why wouldn't they treat us badly later? You know, if they've been taught that you get where you're going by walking all over people and just doing as you please and all this shoddy behaviour behind closed doors, that's what they're watching on a political stage. They're being left behind in the education system. Mums and dads are getting more and more stressed out with different things, more and more traumas happening. You know, I can understand why. I understand why people say, you know what, I just don't want any more of this and book out. But it's because they're not seeing it through our eyes. Yeah. And I think it would be so much nicer. Well, it'd be the way it was meant to be, wouldn't it? If children were allowed to grow up and be and do their own purpose.
Yes. You know, and be supported in that would be absolutely awesome. And actually, you can see the beginnings of what you're referring to now when you look how the elderly are already kind of disrespected and things. You know, if the youth are unseen, and that's part of the problem. You know, everyone's going on about the disturbance of youngsters. They're only being a disturbance because they are unseen, and they're trying to get attention, get the acknowledgement, recognition, because they aren't supported in who they are.
Yeah, on a bigger level. Yeah. It's kind of weird, isn't it? If you think back sort of 100, 150 years ago, and we were sending kids up down the mines and up chimneys, and, you know, they worked hard from being very little, and then we swung right out the other way where, you know, precious little lambs, and then they've kind of gone underground again, but in this kind of way where their voice isn't recognised. And I think we saw that more than anything when the Brexit thing happened here, you know, and they voted. I mean, a big youth voice came up against that, didn't they? Because so many young people say, well, one, you didn't explain it in a way that we understood it. I think a lot of adults said that themselves. Yeah. But they didn't take any notice of what the young people were actually saying. And I think that's been to their doom. And eventually, I really hope it'll be the young people that usurp all of these old school greys, I like to call them.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've noticed, just from my own observations in what goes on around me, all the, basically the, what's known as extrovert or weird or the misfits and everything else, they're the ones that really do the supporting and the building and the creating and the everything that's good in the world. And what I noticed from my own observations is as we're going forward, it's becoming more and more grey, and the eccentricity is disappearing. So it's, again, bringing it out. You know, people think I'm a complete weirdo. But, you know, but actually
Viva la weird, I say.
Yeah, I
All the
would
best
rather
people
be a
are.
complete weirdo than be grey.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weirdos, we're powerful in our own way, aren't we?
We are, each in our own individual aspects of really doing good things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you want to say before we finish, Stephie?
Oh no, I've probably just talked people's ears off.
Oh, bless you.
Is there anything else I'd like to say? Just be you. Just be the best version of yourself you can be. People say you're a long time dead, and I say you're a long time alive. It's a long time. I'm almost 52, and I feel like I've been here forever. So, and like some people live to, like quite a few people now live till about 100. So I could effectively only be halfway through. And if that's the case, you are alive a long time. Do you the best you can. Be you the best you can. Take no notice of what anybody else says you can or can't do, or whether it's right or wrong in anybody else's lives. You are an individual with your own story and your own unique reasons for that purpose. And be it, do it, and just keep going. That would be my thing.
Oh, fabulous, Stephie. What a wonderful note to finish on. Be the best you that you can is probably one of the best messages that's out there. And Stephie is a fabulous advocate for that. As you have seen, she blessed the blessed the walls off the completely off the box. And it's just been an absolute joy to speak to you, Stephie.
Lovely, and you girls.
With Stephie and have her support you to becoming the authentic and beautiful you that you are. You can connect with her through our website. It's atoughworldoutthere.com, and you know, she'll be so happy to see you and assist you.
Yeah, totally.
It's been a joy, Stephie, as always. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the time.